Talk about launching your career with a bang. This video is about bands who sold millions of records, toured the world, influenced generations, and yet the biggest selling album in their entire catalogue is still their first one. Here's 10 huge debut albums that hit harder out of the gate than anything else that the artists who released them could come up with. We start with a debut that you could say defined a band and a generation, The Doors. Released in 1967, the album has sold over 13 million copies worldwide, a genuinely remarkable figure for the 60s. It produced multiple classics, Light My Fire, Break On Through to the Other Side, The End, and in the US and Canada it's been certified 4 times platinum, and 2 times platinum here in the UK. Compare that to their next bestseller, LA Woman from 1971, which is an undeniable classic in itself with songs like Riders on the Storm and Love Her Madly. It was itself a critical and commercial success, and it still sells solidly too. But certified units put it around 10 million in total sales. So for a band with 6 studio albums in the classic era, multiple hits and rock immortality, The Doors remains the strongest commercial statement. An iconic album that still leads the ledger. Now yes, I know all about Black Sabbath, but when it comes to his solo work, the debut stands above all else. Ozzy's first post-Black Sabbath solo album, Blizzard of Ozz, wasn't just a comeback, it was a statement. Certified 5 times platinum in the US and with strong sales in UK and Europe, it launched his solo career with iconic tracks like Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley that remain staples in metal playlists worldwide. His next best-selling solo album is actually No More Tears from 1991, with A Diary of a Madman not far behind. Ozzy achieved something like 13 platinum certified records in the US alone, with compilations and live records included, but none could ever quite match the debut's count worldwide. Blizzard's raw impact and legendary status still means it's number 1 in Ozzy's solo catalogue. This list is about sales figures. I'm not commenting on the quality of the output or the material, I'll let you do that. So let me know in the comments below whether you think the debut records from all these artists stand as their greatest pieces of work, or did they just come along at the right time to achieve big commercial success? When it comes to sales dominance, Bat Out of Hell is a monster. Almost 45 million copies sold worldwide, making it one of the top-selling rock albums ever. Listen to these certifications. Australia, 26 times platinum. New Zealand, 17 times platinum. United States, 14 times platinum. The UK, 12 times platinum. Plus Canada and Denmark certified it 2 times diamond, which sounds mad. His next best, Bat Out of Hell 2, Back Into Hell from 1993, was no slouch either, estimated in the low to mid-teens in millions sold, and it delivered the monster single I'd Do Anything for Love But I Won't Do That. But even with that major hit, the record doesn't get anywhere near Meat's first solo album's total. Now, Meatloaf continued to have a long career. He released 12 studio albums and he engaged in tours that drew crowds worldwide, but by the numbers, the debut is still the champion by a significant margin. Rage's self-titled debut was a seismic event and a cornerstone in the alternative metal and rap rock crossover. It spawned classics like Killing in the Name, Bomb Track and Bullet in the Head. The debut record was multi-platinum all over the world really, including the US, the UK, Australia and New Zealand. But that's not to say that they hit it big and disappeared. No, they released 3 more studio albums which all went platinum in the US. The next bestseller was Evil Empire from 1996, debuted at number 1. It was also multi-platinum. The Battle of Los Angeles from 1999 was another massive release with huge touring and critical acclaim, but they could never quite match that incendiary force of nature that was their first release. In a band known for political intensity and an evolution of sound, the debut still stands as the biggest of their career. Now this one is a textbook example of commercial explosion. Get the Knack, with platinum status in the US in less than 2 months, and spending 5 weeks on top of the Billboard 200 album chart. It was one of the biggest selling of the year, and it contained one of the biggest selling rock singles of the 70s as well, the biggest selling single in the US for 1979, My Sharona. It dominated radio and charts for months. The follow-up album in 1980, But the Little Girls Understand, well, let's just say it didn't maintain the debut album's sales trajectory at all. At best, it reached number 15 in the US and could only manage gold certification. Despite this dramatic drop-off, they did try again a year later. 1981, Round Trip was released, but it failed to chart. They did try a number of comebacks over the years. 10 years after that one, 1991, Serious Fun failed to chart. Zoom came out in 1998 and failed to chart. And then in 2001, Normal as the Next Guy, their 6th and final studio album, also failed to chart. They tried, but could never match the blistering success of that first album. When you talk about the best rock album debuts of all time, then Appetite for Destruction is definitely up there. With around 30 million plus copies sold worldwide, this is one of the best-selling debut albums in rock history. Its singles, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, Welcome to the Jungle, are not just hits, they are radio staples even to this day, and even on pop channels as well. The band released 5 more studio albums in various guises, and while they all performed phenomenally well, even Chinese Democracy went platinum in the US, nothing could get close to Appetite for Destruction. And looking at the figures, Use Your Illusion 2 is just ahead of Use Your Illusion 1, despite it being released on the same day. Combined, they don't even reach the numbers of the debut. So even with decades of touring and reissues and infamous infighting, fallouts and reunions to keep them in the public eye, that first record still stands head and shoulders above all else. Now, the Ramones is a cornerstone of punk rock. In absolute numbers, it doesn't reach the same heights as the other entries on the list, but in terms of the band's own catalogue, it stands as their most certified studio album, and let's be honest, they're best known too. Later albums like Leave Home and Rocket to Russia are cultural pillars as well, but they don't really surpass the debut's certified units, despite being fan favourites. And this highlights the unique nature of the Ramones' sales curve, a long tail of influence and legacy, but a debut that remains their strongest quantified seller. Its cover is also hugely iconic too, adorning t-shirts of generations of people who, let's be honest, might not even be able to name a single song. Hey ho.
Let's go!
10 is Pearl Jam's biggest selling album by a wide margin, with almost double the units shifted as their next best. Certified 13 times platinum in the US thanks to singles like Alive, Even Flow and Jeremy. They were cornerstones of 90s grunge and alternative rock. The band have always stayed relevant though. They've released 12 studio albums and embarked on countless world tours. They also still have massive streaming numbers today, but their album sales have pretty much declined with every new album they put out. Not to say that the figures are bad, I mean far from it. 20 years into their career, their albums were still selling in the millions worldwide, but they were never able to capture that moment in the early 90s when they stood on top of that mountain with Kurt Cobain. Now, I included this group as there's an interesting anomaly in the results in a way. Skid Row's eponymous debut album was a commercial powerhouse. It's certified 5 times platinum in the US alone. It delivered rock radio staples like 18 and Life, Youth Gone Wild and I Remember You, but it only peaked at number 6 in the US and number 30 in the UK. Now, their follow-up, Slave to the Grind, also went platinum, but was a number 1 in America and top 5 in the UK. But in total certified units, it only sold perhaps half as many as the self-titled debut. And finally, you know what it is. I couldn't leave it out now, could I? Boston's self-titled debut, arguably one of the biggest rock debut albums ever. Certified 17 times platinum in the US and with around 20 million copies worldwide, it remains the band's biggest selling album. The next closest commercial entry is Don't Look Back from 1978, which itself went 7 times platinum in the US, which is a huge figure, but still far below the certified units of the debut. So that's 10 debut records that still stand as the biggest selling entries in the careers of some iconic bands. Not because these acts stopped working, far from it, but because they hit so hard out of the gate that nothing that followed could surpass those original numbers.